It was a hot summer day. Mikey and Jacob, best friends since kindergarten, were exploring their favorite hangout spot, Mr. Jones's Junkyard. Mr. Jones didn't mind. He told them to be careful. "Jacob, look at this," yelled Jacob, holding up a rusty old bicycle horn. "Mikey, cool!" Mikey laughed. He picked up a dented metal sign that read, "Keep out." They liked imagining who might have owned the things they found. "Mikey, let's check behind that pile of tires," suggested Mikey. Always on the lookout for something interesting. They loved exploring the junkyard. It was like a treasure hunt every time. "Jacob, race you!" shouted Jacob, already running towards the huge stack of tires. They were both out of breath when they reached the tires. Jacob, catching his breath, reached behind a tire. He pulled out a dusty leather briefcase. Jacob, "Whoa, Mikey, look!" Mikey's eyes widened. "Mikey, wow, what do you think is inside?" He was excited. Jacob struggled to open the clasps. Finally, the briefcase creaked open. It was full of money. They had never seen so much money in their lives. "Jacob, we're rich!" Jacob exclaimed, his voice trembling with excitement. Mikey stared at the money, his mind racing. What should they do? Suddenly, they heard a cough. A tall figure stood behind them. It was Officer Murphy, the neighborhood policeman. Officer Murphy was friendly. He knew Mikey and Jacob. "Officer Murphy, well, what have we here?" Officer Murphy asked, looking down at the boys and the open briefcase. Mikey and Jacob froze. They didn't know what to say. They had never been in trouble before. "Officer Murphy, where did you find this?" Officer Murphy asked, his voice serious. He pointed to the briefcase. Jacob looked at Mikey. What should they do? Their hearts were pounding. They didn't want to get in trouble.
We found it."
Mikey stammered, pointing to the tire pile. Officer Murphy looked at them for a long moment, then he sighed.
"Boys, I need to take this briefcase. It might be important evidence."
But the money..."
started Jacob. Mikey nudged him to be quiet. Officer Murphy was right. Officer Murphy took the briefcase. He promised to find out who it belonged to. He thanked them for being honest. Mikey and Jacob walked home slowly. They were no longer excited. They felt bad for even thinking about keeping the money.
"Do you think we did the right thing?"
asked Jacob. He was unsure of himself.
Yeah, it wasn't ours to keep.
He was starting to understand. The next day, Officer Murphy visited them. He had good news. The briefcase belonged to Mr. Jones. He'd forgotten it in the junkyard years ago. Mr. Jones was so happy to have his briefcase back. He gave Mikey and Jacob each a reward. It wasn't a lot of money, but it felt like a fortune. Mikey and Jacob learned a valuable lesson. Honesty is always the best policy. They also realized that true friendship is more valuable than any treasure they could find in the junkyard. Officer Murphy smiles warmly as he hands the boys a small reward for their bravery. "You two did a great job today," he says. The boys beam with pride, knowing they've done something good. As the sun set over the junkyard, Mikey and Jacob sat on an old tire, looking out over the piles of discarded items. They talked about their dreams for the future, inspired by their recent adventure and the lessons they had learned. Mikey spoke of becoming a detective one day, helping people just like Officer Murphy. Jacob, on the other hand, dreamed of becoming an inventor, creating gadgets from the discarded treasures they often found in the junkyard. They made a pact to always stay true to themselves and to each other, no matter where life took them. The junkyard no longer seemed like a place of forgotten things, but a place of endless possibilities. And as they walked home, they knew that the future held many more adventures for them to share. Soft music fades out. The end of one adventure is just the beginning of another.